Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is a review of New Zealand versus Australia. After the kickoff, Australia looked pretty good. They put a few phases together and getting a penalty, they put it to the corner, which was very adventurous to them. I've been a bit wary of teams putting it to the corner recently because it hasn't really paid off. And you wonder whether they could have kicked the points, but it paid off in spades. And Coram Betty ends up getting over in the corner for a try. And yeah, great stuff from Australia to kick off the match. New Zealand have started really quickly recently, and Australia have taken the initiative here in this game. Carter Gordon pings it from the touchline, and it's 7-0 to Australia. And it's all Australia in the first 10 minutes, and they go straight and get some good territory. And Tom Hooper, ends up with a great finish and charges over the line and gets over to put Australia two tries in front. And it's a pretty unbelievable start. They couldn't have asked for a better start, to be honest with him. Again, Carter Gordon, who looks apart when he's on the field, he pings it, and Australia, unbelievably, up 14-0. Yeah, so it's pretty much Australia for the first quarter of the match. And when New Zealand do get the ball, Mackenzie's playing outside half, and his kicking is a little bit loose. I'm sure he won't be happy with his performance today, but yeah, they can't seem to string any phases together, and they're struggling to get in the game at this point. So with New Zealand with their backs against the wall, really in this first period, the Iceman, Will Jordan, makes a break. And it's a nice break in midfield, and this is when he's at his best, when he's coming inside and looking for the ball. And New Zealand get the advantage, get a penalty, and they slot it over, and it's 14-3 to Australia. New Zealand are making a lot of tackles, and as we know from previous test matches, that can take its toll on the side. They are really putting in the work, and yeah, Australia are looking good. They have good shape, and they feeding the ball out to the back line, really flat, and they have multiple runners, and the runners are hitting that line at pace as well. So yeah, it's working well for them, and putting New Zealand under all kinds of pressure, more pressure than we've seen for a long time. Australia apply more pressure to New Zealand, and they cough up the penalty, and Carter Gordon slots it over. So at this point, it's 17-3 to Australia, and that's a pretty amazing start for them. To be that far in front after like a relatively short period of play, it's beyond the wildest imaginations really for Eddie Jones. He must be ecstatic at this point. In terms of the set piece, the New Zealand scrum was not bad, although not as dominant as it has been in the last couple of matches. They had a couple of new players in at prop, and also worryingly, the New Zealand line out wasn't functioning correctly. Takeako took the blame for it, which is understandable and right. But something wasn't quite right. I don't know what it was, but just the set piece of New Zealand wasn't functioning correctly, and they coughed up quite a few infringements from those areas. So Australia almost get another try with McDermott, the scrum half, getting over in the corner but being turned on his back, so he didn't actually place the ball down. And Whitelock and Superman, Adi Surveyor, were involved in that. And yeah, on Whitelock is playing for his place at the moment. That's clear. I haven't seen him have such a good game for New Zealand for a while, and he really played out of his skin, like turnovers, everything. Like with Scott Barrett coming into form now, I think Whitelock realizes like he's in danger of losing his first choice status, which is actually great for New Zealand because Whitelock had a fantastic game. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch, and he puts in the tackle and Ardie Savea holds up McDermott, and that really could have put the game almost beyond reach for New Zealand, but they hold out, and we glide into the halftime whistle. So New Zealand come out, not a different team, but with more purpose in the second half, and they have a lot more possession. So they, when they got the ball, they show them what they can do, and they put it through the phases, simple stuff again, and eventually Stevenson gets over in the corner, young player on the wing there, great boot on him actually. And so New Zealand now are firmly back in the match. But the halftime speech must have been pretty good because they definitely pulled their socks up in this little first period of the second half. Whereas in the first half, New Zealand were coughing up quite a few penalties and free kicks. In the second half, it's the other way around, and Australia are conceding way too many penalties, and that's really stifling them and crippling their momentum, to be honest with you. And it's, even though New Zealand are behind on the scoreboard, it's the momentum is firmly back now in New Zealand's camp. So it's going to be interesting now the last 30 minutes to see how Australia respond. Australia finally gets some decent ball, and they are still running really flat on the gain line. The ball is being given really flat, but you can see there's a lack of runners this time in the second half, and they're not really taking the ball at pace. So that tactic that was so effective for them in the first half is kind of falling flat, and it's very easy, or I would say very easy, much easier to defend for the New Zealand team. Australia are slowly playing their way back into the match and get a penalty within kicking distance, and Gordon hits the post, I think it was, and fine margins like that can cost you a test match, and it proved to be the case this time. But in general, I think he played well, but little things like that, like the guy McDermott getting held up over the line, hitting the post, that's the level you're playing at now. And I think these Australian boys have to kind of realise that to a certain extent, and they just missed out, but little things like that can make a big difference. Australia are definitely getting back in the match, but they have a line out and it absolutely goes terribly, and that really shifts the momentum back into New Zealand's hands, and you can't give New Zealand a chance like that to get back in the game. You've got to kill them off conclusively or decisively, and just again the set piece and little things, doing small things or simple things well, serves teams like so well in the long run, because all of those little battles add up to ultimate victory, and Australia just couldn't get those things right when it mattered, and it ultimately cost them the game. So from that mistake, New Zealand worked their way downfield, and they go over under the posts. It's a lot of pick and drive, a lot of short balls, and Finau gets over under the posts, and they cut to a shot of Eddie Jones, and I would hate to hear what he had to say if he was mic'd up. He's slamming the walkie-talkie down on the thing, and I can't really blame him, to be honest. It was a lapse in concentration really from the Australian players. They had it in the bag and they'd let New Zealand back into the match. Of course, New Zealand played pretty well to get back into the game, but Eddie Jones must be super frustrated with that. So after the New Zealand try, it's pretty back and forth. They're in the lead now, so they're kind of cruising a little bit. And that man, the Iceman, cometh. Will Jordan again gets back into the game, and breaks through midfield again. That's when he's at his absolute best. And great save from Skelton, actually, who looks really fit. He's a big lump, but that's one thing Eddie Jones will do for your side. He'll get them fit, I've heard. Yeah, Skelton, I think, is going to have a good World Cup because he's a big lump, but he's got his fitness levels up now. To get the turnover that he did at that stage in the game says a lot about his conditioning. So, yeah. So the penalty count has kind of swung back into Australia's favour a little bit. Maybe the New Zealand team is tiring. Australia realises they're for the taking, I think, and put in a final effort in. And Quade Cooper has come on, and he has a kick for goal. And surprisingly, they can't find the kicking tee, which is a bit unusual for an international test match. And yeah, this is where it gets a bit shady, to be honest with you. Quade Cooper, if you don't know, was born in New Zealand and raised in New Zealand and played for Australia, and there's been a bit of like beef with the New Zealand players, but the crowd resoundingly boo him as he's kicking. And to be honest with you, I wasn't a fan of that at all. I thought it was completely out of order and unnecessary. So I was a little bit disappointed with that, to be honest with you. And the fans were great otherwise, but it's rugby, you know what I mean? This ain't soccer. Come on. So there's like 5 minutes to go, and New Zealand are attacking, which is great to see. The prominent characters are Leonard Brown. I thought it was a great comeback game. I thought he was really good in the centre, really solid, and that they need a player like that. I mean, he's definitely going to the World Cup in my book. Whitelock, again, he had a massive game playing for his place, which is, I think, what he needs. He needs a bit of a challenge there. He's such a stalwart. And Coles as well. So all the veterans, I think, really played a part in that last 5 minutes in sealing off the game for New Zealand. New Zealand get a couple of penalties. There's quite a long advantage played by the referee. Nothing really to moan about, but it was a little bit strange. But eventually New Zealand take a kick for goal, and that's the game winner, Mwanga, who is looking more and more confident every time he touches the ball. Kicks it over, and that's the 23-20, which ended up being the final score. So overall, I don't think New Zealand were at their best, and I think Australia played really well enough definitely to win the match in the first half. Second half, I think they let the New Zealanders get back in the game. Some of the players switched off. I mean, a player like Valentini, I think, is so good. He needs to take a much greater role in leading that pack, and I think he has the capabilities to do it. And let's see if he can step up, because when he's playing well, the pack seems to follow him. So Whitelock for New Zealand was a lifesaver in the second row, and he just absolutely worked his ass off. And New Zealand are known for winning in the last 20, and that's what they did here, and that's a good sign for them. In terms of Australia's performance, I think they'll take a lot of positives. I mean, a lot of the players they brought on and they played from the start did very well. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we have a glimpse of what they can actually do with the personnel that they have. Front row is going to be an area of concern for them, but I think they proved now that they're worthy of mixing it with the best in the world, whereas the last couple of matches it's been questionable. New Zealand, quite a different team to what played last time, but I think they'll be reasonably happy. They came out with a win, which is key, you know. Also, they got the blood quite a few new players, and they did well. So I think both teams will be reasonably happy with the result. Australia will feel like it's one that got away, but yeah, that happens, you know. So I'm looking forward to both teams' next game. So, yeah, if you made it this far, thank you very much for listening. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. And I'll see you next time. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.